Joining us now is House of Delegates member Mark Sickles from Northern Virginia. He's the deputy minority leader on the House. He's a Democrat. Obviously, they're in the minority. And he's also one of three openly gay members of the Virginia General Assembly. Delegate Sickles, good to have you with us, man.
Good morning.
I want to talk about, a couple of minutes ago, we had on Gregory Anthony. He's the president of the Log Cabin Republicans. And we were talking about this basically execution of 49 gay people targeted in this bar 8 days ago in Orlando. And one of the things that's, I guess, has been bothering me all week is as so few people in the media have called this for what it is, which is a targeted execution of people for their sexual orientation, simply because they're gay. I mean, this guy staked out this bar. He surveilled it. Whatever his religious, Muslim, extremist, radical affiliation is, he's an ISIS fighter. They hate gays. And so he basically executed 49 of them, wounded 50 others. But yet it seems like the media, the administration, we're not calling this out for what it is. Why?
Well, I think people are still looking into it. This guy was a mess. I've been reading about his background. He was troubled from his elementary school days on. He was conflicted about his own sexuality, apparently. One of the places that he worked at a vitamin store, a GNC, the woman who managed the store was quoted as saying everyone assumed he was gay. So, if you're a troubled person, mental illness is, people of any kind of ethnic background can have a mental illness, and he certainly fit in the category. He just had nothing but trouble his whole life. But hate crimes are the hate crimes against LGBT people are the number one target of hate crimes, and it should be called out. I think it has been, apparently not as strongly as you think it should be, but I think people have mentioned it. I just think that the whole mix of his radicalization in his growing up, his father was a bit of a lunatic, delusional person who was telling people here he had influence in the government of Afghanistan. So I think there's going to be a lot written, discovered, researched. It's sadly a case that happens too often. A lot of these killers, regardless of their religion, are young men who somehow fell off the wagon somewhere and are subject to radicalization of various kinds. I mean, look at we're 1 year away from Dylan Roof in Charleston, South Carolina, and what motivated him, what kind of illness brought him to the state where he could go in there and pray with people and then shoot them. Mm-hmm. It's just astounding what the people can do. Mental illness is a serious thing. Mm-hmm. We're trying to do a better job in the General Assembly because we've had such terrible incidents here. A gunner shot people on live TV. We had an incident a decade or so ago where someone walked in a gay bar in Roanoke and killed somebody, shot somebody. It's unfortunately it's not new. This is this one sets a record for the worst one in our history, and it happens to be in a gay nightclub. And our hearts go out to everybody who suffered there. And it is a hate crime. It's a lot of other things, and people are going to be sorting through this. And I hope we can actually take steps to help prevent people with this type of background from being able to purchase weapons that can fold up, like this Sig Sauer weapon that he had. Apparently, the stock folds in, and people were wondering how it got in there. I heard Donald Trump saying that it was a gun-free zone, except that there was a person with a gun there, a police officer in there that was overcome, maybe by a more powerful weapon. I guess the news on how it happened step by step we'll still learn in the future. But it's a serious problem we have. I don't know why people, civilians, are able to carry weapons like the AR-15 in this particular model. It's a sad day.
So what do you think about this potential compromise on the accessibility of guns to those on an FBI watch list. Now, I know that some people say that, well, that watch list is not really airtight. We don't know how people got on there. Look, congressmen have been on that thing. So I get that end of the argument. But here you look, Mark Sickles, at the situation where this guy was on an FBI terror watch list. He was interviewed by the FBI in 2013. He had all kinds of social media indications that he was not particularly in favor of peaceful Americans. Something was going to happen. How did this fall through the cracks?
Oh, that's a great question, John. I think that the FBI needs to look internally and see what happened. He was a good actor. I mean, some people that knew him through his life thought are shocked now that he could do this, although other people saw his bursts of anger, his anger management problems just generally. We're all fallible as humans. We make you go when you have a cold to go to the counter to get Sudafed now, but this guy could pass a background check. So we really need to look into that, and some people may have to wait a little bit longer or get caught up, waiting for their AR-15 another 3 days or a week, but small inconvenience, I would say, for the potential devastation that can be caused by a person like Omar Mateen.
Yeah, it's a terrible situation. If you're gay right now in America and there's things that you congregate at, do you feel this is going to be a coming trend? Should more precautions be taken?
Boy, I think there should be, and I hope it's not a trend. I know with the changes in society, it's hard for people. Equality for all people is a new concept for a lot of people, and people are learning to adjust. And I think it is a problem. I mean, like I said earlier, LGBT people are the number one targets of hate crimes in the country. That's documented, and I wish I could say there's not going to be more, but I know we have enough people out in our country that are not getting the treatment that they need, not getting psychiatry that they need, including this man. So I think there will be more, absolutely. I think we need to protect ourselves from it in several ways. One, by not allowing them or doing our best to prevent them from having access to guns that have 30-round clips in them to attach to them that you can fit under a coat to get into a bar.
Delegate Sickles, do you really think the issue here is access to a particular weapon? I mean, if he couldn't get the gun, he would have gotten, 4 Glocks, or he would have had a bomb. I mean, the next thing you got to have a bomb.
Sure.
You're going to want to ban fertilizer. I mean, isn't the real issue?
Question.
I mean, isn't the real issue that this guy is part of a radical jihadist group that is in America that's just targeting innocent people?
Oh, that's yet to be determined. He probably is. I think the FBI is going to release more information about him today. Mm-hmm. He probably is in that category. He was radicalized right here on our soil, and that is a very disturbing fact. I mean, people need simple solutions in life, mm-hmm. and things have to be black and white. And for some people with certain psychological makeups, very subject to reception of this hate message, and I think that no one would disagree with you that the root cause is not the weapon. It's the fact that the weapon can be so devastating at one time, and we take so many precautions in every other area of life, but we have a different standard for political reasons, and I just want our good American gun owners to say, okay, we're going to be inconvenienced just a little bit so we can make sure that guns are in the hands of the people who are going to know how to stay within the law and aren't mentally ill. So that's all we're asking for, is for people to say, okay, we're going to be a little bit more inconvenienced because of the mass devastation that this can cause in such a short period of time.
Well, look, we're in agreement with this, and Donald Trump is calling for this also. I know he's meeting with the National Rifle Association, but it seems to me that if you're on a terrorist watch list and you're being interviewed by the FBI for radical behavior that includes murdering Americans, okay, it seems to me there should be another layer of restriction or something to restrict your access so that you don't gun people down and execute them. So look, I'm as pro Second Amendment as anybody. I understand it is a right, but this guy was on a watch list, and I get the fact that some people get on it by mistake, but it seems to me there could be a compromise here where there is an extra layer of scrutiny if someone is on this list. If they're on it for the wrong reasons, then you can solve it and figure it out, Delegate Sickles. But I mean, this guy was interviewed by the FBI. This guy was on social media. This guy was being watched. And there was basically, the way the laws are written now, there was no scrutiny for this when he went to buy the gun.
Right. He was apparently was very good at appearing, as a lot of people that have mental illness issues are, in appearing, if I can use the word normal, unquote, and convinced people that he's fine. I mean, some people who knew him, even though he had a history, had 30 different sanctions. He was in an alternative high school he was sent to, and he had all these problems. And growing up, he was a chubby kid who got beat up. Mm-hmm. So he had all these issues in his growing up, and then they found people who knew him, who ran into him in their life, who had no idea, thought he was just a regular person, a happy-go-lucky person, And so the mind is a very complicated, space, and we're never going to figure it out totally. That's why we have to use a precautionary principle in what we do. That's why we regulate so many things. You just can't. If you're over a certain age in Virginia, you have to get your driver's license renewed every year to prove to people that you can drive without killing somebody else. So that's an inconvenience to some 80-year-olds that are perfectly fine. But you have to draw the line somewhere.
I got a few comments, and just one thing, Delegate Mark Sickles, we just comment is driving is a privilege, owning a gun is a constitutional right. But I get where you're coming from. This is from Brandon in Norfolk, who says the FBI should get pressure to release the interview of the terrorist who passed the background checks. I happen to agree with him. How about you?
To get permission to do, say it again, get permission to do a background check?
Yeah, he said, in other words, the FBI should get pressure to release the interview of the terrorist. Remember Loretta Lynch saying yesterday the majority of it was going to be redacted. So I think that's right. We got Jim in Chesapeake who says, when you have senior Muslim Brotherhood officers in key security positions in our federal government, you can't really expect to know what's going on. Well, I'm not. That was
wow.
That was Jim in Chesapeake. Let me just ask you this. We've got a couple more minutes, Delegate Sickles. Donald Trump reaching out to the LGBTQ community over the weekend in a number of interviews, calling this out. Now, whatever you think of Trump, this is the first time a Republican presidential candidate, and you have to admit this, has even acknowledged the existence of the gay community, let alone reaching out to them. Do you think it'll have any impact at all?
I'm not sure. I hope it does. He is obviously putting together a different coalition, or trying to win the presidency. It's very hard on party regulars to see this happening. This is one area where it would be nice to, I think treating everyone with equality under the law should not be a partisan issue. So if he can move the Republican Party forward, more power to him.
Well, in an interview with a gay magazine in New York City, The Advocate, in 2000, when he was thinking about running for president as a Reform Party candidate, he advocated an extension of the 1964 Civil Rights Act to protect gays, and I believe he still holds that view today. So it's going to be interesting to see if he's able to make inroads in the LGBTQ community. We'll see how it plays out. We're out of time. I want to thank House of Delegates member Mark Sickles for being with us today. He's also the Deputy minority leader to David, the Paisano Toscano, who we saw on Saturday night. So, all right, we're out of time. Thanks.
Thanks,
Mark.
John. Thanks for calling.
Thank you so much.
Soon.
Hang in there.
Bye-bye.
All right, this is the John Fredericks Radio Network.